Well, welcome to part 5. This section is going to take us from Tok Junction down to Homer, Alaska, with a stop in Anchorage to clear customs. Here we are on runway 9, getting ready to take off out of Tok Junction. And this is a really fun trip. We're going to go through some mountain passes, we're going to see some glaciers, we're going to make an instrument approach down there in Anchorage, and then head on down to Homer. So grab your popcorn and get ready for the ride. So here we take off, make a right-hand turn. Now we're kind of headed south, and we're going to follow the Glen Highway. The Glen Highway is a really nice, long highway. It goes all the way here from Tok Junction all the way down to Whittier, Alaska. And we've driven multiple sections of that one. So here you can see the Glen Highway, and it's gone from the right side to the left side there. And the Alaska Range is up there, coming up ahead. You can start to see it there. And there's one pass through there that if the weather's bad can get a little iffy. It's called the Mentasta Pass. For you pilots, there's a weather cam there, so you can look at it before you go. You can see the day we went, it looks really, really nice. It was clear. But when we came back, it was a little dicey coming through there. We're down to 300 feet. Right here, you're looking straight ahead. That's where it can get a little dicey. It gets narrow, a lot of water. And with low clouds and the temperature a little cooler, it can really get kind of sucked in. So you want to pay attention on this particular portion of the trip. And there's one more section coming up a little bit later I'll point out to you, right by the MatSu Glacier. So, but you can see it's pretty, it's for the most part wide, and the highway's easy to see and follow. You can see right there, it got a little narrow. And we're just about ready to come out of it here. So again, this is the Alaska Range. And so we're going to come out of the Alaska Range here. And basically it's kind of flat and marshy between here and the glacier section, kind of northeast there of Anchorage. There's a little town with a pretty good sized airport called Gukana. And so we're following now pretty much the Copper River. It's the Slana River just out of the pass here, and then it joins up right there by Gukana with the Copper River. And the Copper River runs all the way out to the Gulf Coast there, the Alaska, Bay of Alaska there by Valdez. And we have followed that one out. That's a really fun trip too. It's a little narrower, tall mountains, but lots of glaciers and really, really pretty. And you can follow that out from Anchorage if you're going to head down towards Ketchikan. So you can see a lot of silt in the rivers. That's glacial melt, so the rivers aren't quite as blue and pretty here as in other parts of Alaska. But this is a very common sight as you're coming down and around from the mountains. So the idea here is we're going to work our way towards Anchorage, and we're going to go right parallel with a couple of mountain ranges there, and you're going to see some glaciers. And as I mentioned, there's one more pass to go through by Sheep Mountain, but there is also a weather cam there. So sometimes on these Alaska trips, you end up flying over some boring landscape that looks somewhat like Nebraska or Kansas here. And but the neat thing is, just like down there where there's mountains at the other end, there's a much nicer prize at the end of this boring area too, and you're going to see it in a bit. So there's the Glen Canyon Highway still. You can see the ponds have a pretty blue color to them here. They don't have the glacial silt in them. You can see the mountain range starting to get a little closer and a lot clearer. So this first glacier you're going to see, right there is a Talzinia Lake. Sorry about that. And then the Talzinia Glacier kind of up it. And there is the Nelchina Glacier and the Sylvester Glacier. And now right here coming up, you can see we're going to go through what's called the Tanita Pass as we come into the MatSu Glacier. So right there's a high point coming up. You see the Glen Highway right there. And neat thing is there's a remote communications outlet there for Kenai Flight Service. So we actually gave them a weather report. There's a camera there, as I mentioned, so you can check it before you leave. And right there on the left is the MatSu Glacier. Now that's a glacier you can drive to and you can walk up. And we've done that, and it's a lot of fun to do that. So from here, we're now following not only the Glen Highway, but that's the MatSu River. There's a good view of both of them there. There's lots of little airports along this section here. There's a big flyout place with hunting cabins, and there's places to land here if you need be. So it got a little interesting here as we're going to come out the end of the MatSu River here. Could start to see clouds up ahead. And you're going to see as we get a little closer there, that's not snow on the mountain, that's actually some clouds. And so one of the first bigger airports and has a flight service station is Palmer. And we'll see it here. But as I got closer to Palmer, I called flight service and asked them what was going on in Anchorage. Right there's the Palmer Airport. There's a good picture of it. Just flew right over top of it. And sure enough, Anchorage had gone instrument flight rules, or IFR. So we gave Palmer some information, and they gave us some frequencies, and we got connected up with Anchorage Approach, and we asked for an instrument clearance into the Anchorage Airport. Because remember, we have to clear customs yet, so we still had to land at Anchorage. So right there, that body of water off to the left is the Nick arm of the Cook Inlet. And it was right about this time we got some vectors now from ATC, Air Traffic Control there in Anchorage. And they're going to take us out a little more to the west now. Anchorage is a super busy airport. I think there were 747s lined up all the way to Japan to land. And it took us a while to actually get a position and a clearance to land. We ended up circling on top of the clouds for about 20 to 30 minutes. So you can see the cloud layer here as we get closer to Anchorage. It actually ended up being just basically a fog bank. And but the cloud, fog, whatever, was less than 500 feet over the ground. And so we needed instrument clearance to get into there. So we're going to show you a little bit here. We were circling on top of the cloud layer. You can see it's not very thick. And it was a little bit entertaining. We were just going around in circles talking to ATC. And at one time you're going to see here a couple of, I think they were F-22s Went right by us, headed to Elmendorf. I think they're coming up in this next line. There they are, going right by. So that was kind of neat to see. And then here's the instrument approach. Here we are lined up on final for runway 7 left. Now you got to pay attention here. First you can see how busy the airport is. And so here we are getting ready to poke into the clouds, coming down the instrument landing system, or the ILS, to runway 7 left. And you're going to see where you break out right here. All of a sudden you'll see that runway markings are off to the right. And if you're not paying attention, you can think, there's the runway. But you dare not move over to the right runway there, meaning 7 right. You got to stay on 7 left. And if you look, there it is. It pokes out of the mist a little further down the runway there. So it's really important to pay attention where you're supposed to land. So here we touched down 7 left, taxi off, and got told to hold for a 747 going by. No problem there. He's much bigger than us. So from there, we taxied to Terminal D, cleared customs, and filed an instrument flight plan down to Homer, got taxi clearance, and we got sent out to 7 left again with an intersection departure. And here we go. And then we departed again, and it was really nice weather once we cleared customs to leave. The fog had moved out of Anchorage, but it was still a little iffy going down towards Homer. So we went out on an instrument flight plan, so we're flying a little higher than we really want to when we're down in Alaska. But there's still hills down there towards Homer, and I wasn't real comfortable trying to just run low beneath the cloud layer, especially with one that's 500 feet when there are hills around. So here we are on top of the clouds. We're going right there across the Cook Inlet, and now we just hit the Kenai Peninsula. You can see us coming inland there. And there's the cloud bank again. This is not fog. Those were low-lying clouds. So as I mentioned, we're just going to stay on top of those. They were pretty much broken and sometimes scattered by the time we got down there, so we could still see the ground quite a bit. It was very, very pretty. You can see it's lush green. So now if you look up ahead, we're coming down the Kenai Peninsula there. There's a couple lakes we're going to go over. This big one you're looking at is called Skilac Lake. Now off to the left here, you can't see this, but you can see that mountain range up there a little bit there coming up the top left of the screen. There's a whole bunch of glaciers. And we'll get you some pictures of those glaciers on the return leg. But it's really pretty down there. Some big ice fields that are feeding the glaciers and the lakes on the Kenai Peninsula. So as we got closer down here towards Homer, there were clouds around the hill there right to the kind of northwest of Homer. And rather than do an instrument approach, as I've mentioned many times, we want to fly Alaska, not fly to Alaska. We want to see it. So you can see here I kind of made a left-hand turn, and we're going to go follow the Ketchimack Inlet, which is right off the Cook Inlet. And that's going to take us right down to Homer. This way we can still see things. We don't have to stay on top of the clouds. There's a good picture of an ice pack. And so here we are. You can start to see Homer poking out down there, just kind of the top center of the screen. The Homer Airport sits right at the end of the Kenai Peninsula here on this side by the Ketchimack Inlet. And we managed to get a straight-in approach. There is a flight service station down here, super friendly. You get to talk to them, figure out what the weather's doing before we canceled the IFR flight plan. And there was a lot of construction going on at the airport this time too, so kind of had to pay attention. There's a good view of it. And there we are. We're all set for a couple days in Homer. So thanks for watching.